Welcome to this, the 2013 Exec Summit at Whittleby Hall in Northamptonshire. My name is Colette Doyle and I'm the editor of PA Life. I'm here to chat to some of the 60 or so delegates attending the two-day event, talking to them about what they expect to get out of it, and looking more generally at how they feel the role of the personal assistant will evolve in future. So let's take a listen to what they have to say.
I think it's changed from a few years ago. It used to be that you would work for one person and your role would be strictly a secretarial role. But having gone through that myself a few years ago and gone through the redundancy process, you know that you end up at the end of it with having to create a whole new role for yourself, and you have to be open to that. You can't just feel I can only work for one person and that's it. You have to embrace it. And that's what I did. So I grew my role to PA for 3 heads and then expand it out as well. And you have to do it. It's such a competitive market nowadays, and that those old days are gone where you just work for one person.
I think, hopefully, change is always very difficult, and organisational structural changes are always very difficult in a company. But hopefully it will show that what PAs do is really worthwhile. It's a really important role. It's the right-hand man to the person that you work for. It's not just an administrative thing. It's actually much more than that. And hopefully it will be seen as more of a strategic kind of position, something that's a bit more managerial than it's currently being perceived. And I think for me, what I would like is for PAs to be seen as direct reports, which they're not currently seen as, they're just seen as administrative.
Interesting point.
I think it's turning into a much more strategic role. You're getting much more involved in the company board level if you're at that level. Okay, the day-to-day things are still there. With new technology, it's also allowing you not necessarily to be in the office, but you can actually work from other places. Travelling with your bosses more, I think, or in actual fact maybe doing more on behalf of your boss. Going to certain meetings and that sort of thing. So I think the seniority of the position is gaining ground, actually.
Well, personally, with our job, with our work at Event Security, it's changing already, because we no longer have our events coordinator there full time. So the PAs are now taking on all the events, which is going to be a major thing coming up next year.
But
so
interesting, right?
Interesting, exactly. Everybody is very keen, but everyone's also concerned about the extra workload.
I would see it evolving to a point where the PA almost becomes a mini boss in their own right, where they're seen to be, you set up a meeting with the chief executive, you may potentially be getting the PA, but in the same respect of you'll be getting the exact same information that you'll be getting from meeting the chief executive. It's almost like cloning your boss, and your PA will fulfil that role in the same respect, with meeting people, with setting up things, with organising accounts, anything that generally that person would sign off, because they are so attached in some respect. I know everywhere that my chief executive is. I know where he needs to be in a month's time. I know where he was 3 months ago. It's one of those ones. I'm also PA to 5 people, but he's sort of my biggest thing. But I see that being a huge thing now. Skype and everything like that. There's so many.
So it's becoming more of a managerial role, really, though, you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. Even being at something like this, I'm potentially representing the organisation in itself, and as a representation of that, I'm representing my chief executive, I'm representing all the managers, I'm representing HR to administrators, everybody within the organisation, and I don't see why that can't be continued on a higher level, where you're meeting with corporate people and parliamentary figures and everything that everybody that my chief executive meets. And again, it's sort of spanning the work across, maybe 2 birds with 1 stone.
Again, we have to be able to multitask and do and adapt. So it's the case of going with the flow, really, because you'll have a manager or as your senior boss who his role expands, so therefore you have to sort of step in to fill the void of anything. So you're just an extension of his role, and I think they'll be more and more dependent on their PAs because of that, because obviously the numbers are reducing and the work is increasing. So everybody has to step up a notch and fill in the gaps. So I definitely think they'll be taking more and more of a managerial role, although they might not get that title.
Well, I still think there's a role out there for a PA. Yes, you're right, you've got all the technology, but that doesn't help. You know, for example, if you're one of the guys or your managers wants to see the boss, is not quite sure, you know, timing, best way to, you know, you, as a PA, you get to know your boss really well, working on a one-to-one basis, and no technology can replace that.
I think that obviously traditionally, you know, you would sit and take dictation and all of the typical, stereotypical secretarial skills. I don't think we need them so much anymore. And they're nice to have as a background and a foundation. But PAs tend to be more involved in their businesses and in their industries. And in my company, we have different sales business units, and I'm only involved in one of those. But you get more involved in PowerPoint things and spreadsheets, and that was never a PA thing. But I think that the way that technology moves so quickly, I just think that the PA role will go with it. And then we just get more and more involved in what our bosses do, instead of sitting outside the office typing letters. I mean, that just doesn't happen anymore.
So it'll become a more managerial type role.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just more involved in everything that goes on in all different departments of your business. And we've just started a new thing where we're allowed to sort of shadow people, and you can choose who you would like that to be. So if you wanted to think, oh, I'll maybe move on into marketing or sales, you can choose to shadow people in different business units. And I think that's going to become more generic across all industries, because PAs need to know everything that goes on in their business.
I think it's evolving amazingly now, to tell you the truth, and it's almost like PAs are taking over different parts of the business because of their knowledge that perhaps a while ago senior managers were expected to do. Whereas because PAs are now so involved, they're taking on parts of the business because they've been there a bit longer, they understand what's happening, and I think their wages are probably reflecting this. And because the chief exec or the director they're working for can trust them, they feel happier that they're doing it, and perhaps they're keeping that ownership within their department. They're happier with that. So I think it's amazing. How it's going to go further than that, I have no idea, but
We'll wait and see.
coming here today, I can see it's vastly changed over the last 5 years.
I think that if PAs keep up with the times and keep their skill set relevant and current, then there'll always be a place for them. I always say that, look at myself, my boss would never have taken me with her unless I could deliver what she wanted, and actually second guess her. The biggest thing that all PAs should be able to do is second guess their bosses.
Well, more and more PAs, although they go in for a one-to-one role, it tends to be more about a one-to-one plus several other people. So if it's either more of the directors or more of the team. So you tend to do a lot more work, not necessarily for the same amount of money. And technology is playing a lot bigger part in that, because obviously people are more onto the smartphone, so you need to be constantly learning all the different technologies in order to keep up, and also ahead of the market as well.
I think the PA will become more adaptable, and I think our role is not just a 9 to 5 office role. Although we are at that desk, with the power of technology, I can work from anywhere. I can support my CEO and my team with the amazing technology that is Android. I can do everything from my phone. I can book travel, and I can use multiple calendars, whereas before a PA's role was very much front of house, and you were there to make the tea and the coffee. And now we're bringing it all together. I do think it's interesting that we do have an accreditation to the industry, and I would definitely champion that, because behind every CEO, director, management team are a team of people like me, the unsung heroes that sometimes don't even appear on an org chart.
But they need to get that recognition.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.